I served 1 year overseas. I was fortunate when I went into the service, got out of high school, graduated. Dad thought probably, well, I didn't have a job, I wasn't doing anything. This was in 1940. To enlist, I was just a sliver of a kid then. I couldn't make the weight scale of 126, and I only had 121 pounds on my hide. So like the drugstore guy said, well, sit down, we can fix that up. So he gave me a quart of milk and 4 bananas and said, go to it. And I did, and went back and weighed on the scale again and weighed 26 pounds. So I was immediately, took the oath, and then went back home and was allowed 4 or 5 more days at home before I got on a train and went due north to Fort Robinson. I'd never heard of the place. I've been in Nebraska all my life, because I was raised back east there, and was surprised to find out I was a soldier already. I wasn't interested when first contacted by the Honor Flight group. Come and see, come and saw. I wasn't interested in seeing any graves with stakes in them and names on them. I know how everybody feels about them, but didn't approach me as a good thing to ride 2,000 miles to have a look at 9 or 10, 11 more of them. But the girls were quite interested in it apparently, and both kind of jabbed me from both sides. Well, go Dad, go Dad. And kind of followed up with the paperwork and the telephone calls from the lady that contacted me that finally got me off and to a very, very interesting and enjoyable educational flight to the east of here in Washington to 9 different cemeteries. That's what they were to me at that time, cemeteries. We arrived there in Baltimore from here, straight through flight, had a marvelous send-off in Phoenix. People yahooing and clapping for all veterans everywhere, plus those that was in the group. 21 of us, or 29, I believe. I think it was 21 Korean veterans and 5 World War II veterans. And we were in the oldest were in the front just by chance. I don't know how that happened. But we were being wheeled by the guardians, and as we were going up and down the walkways there at the airport, we got quite an ovation, which was very heartwarming. I wasn't expecting that at all. Got right on the airplane, went right on to Baltimore, got off, and went to a place where we were going to stay 10, 12 miles from there, and had dinner, and then that was it, because we were going to take off at 7 the next morning for the first stop. And it was amazing how the picture opened up with some of these cemeteries, which was kind of a raw word to call these poor people that really don't have a chance now, that are gone. And the elaborate, beautiful work of some of these, what do you call them?
The artists, the sculptures?
No.
The memorials.
Memorial, that's it. The memorials, each of the 9 so completely different, but along the same lines in beauty and craft and art. Gosh, I was amazed. We spent as much time as we could just walking and browsing through the beauty of this artwork, that some of them were done by pictures, by woodwork, by a lot of it was done by an iron crafted, bent and fixed in different positions. Most unusual beauty for the most part. And it really became very interesting to me as we went from one to one. I had no idea we were going to that many. And then the last one we went to was the big one with thousands and almost endless graves of the white posts.
Arlington.
At Arlington National Cemetery. They pointed it out to us as we went through back and forth through the cemetery by bus, the different areas of different groups of people, the Army nurses, the generals, whoever had their respect in the service qualified them for the place in the cemetery. And it was very interesting. The one I liked the most, of course, was Federal Roosevelt. I think his was one of the best and mostly done. It was just huge blocks of stone, like marble, that were lifted down in and around his area with printings on them, each one of them different, many of them you remember. One of them that stands out, for instance, is "You have nothing to fear but fear yourself," you know. That's the one that comes to mind. And I pulled my little cart up beside his, and it was quite a thrill to me to be able to take off my hat and sit next to him in his wheelchair, you know. I thought that was something, and to see the various way these blocks of stone were just cut off square and dumped in there in many different positions because they were so huge. You just can't imagine what they would have on imagination comparing it to some of the others that were almost nothing in material other than beauty or art, you know. And we went the first day and covered every one of those. Each one of them we got in the bus, thanks to the Joyce and the Guardian group that hefted us in the bus and out of the bus 9 different times to shimmy in and around these various memorials. And it was more and more interesting the more depth you got into it. and realizing why we were there, as we were greeted in a number of places, just kind of like we were at the airport. Little pods of people stand around and clap as we went by, and knowing what we had done or where we had been, which was grateful good to all of us there, I'm sure. I don't have any idea at this moment what the count for wheelchairs were, but there was quite an array of Army wheelchairs pushing ahead and following behind. Probably a dozen that were still yet mobile men that got along with a cane or just were in pretty good shape yet for their age. We stopped for lunch, which was a box lunch at noontime, and at one of the places, and in a shady, lovely spot. And then we moved on to the next 4 or 5, and we had no idea what was ahead of us but just more beauty. It just staggers my memory and my imagination when I saw these. The true art that went into these units to do what they were doing. Some very plain, some quite complicated. And it was a surprise to me that, yes, we covered 9 different places of these memorials that were out of my imagination.